Whether you're a seasoned veteran or a new trader that just started out, everyone is susceptible to periods of drawdown. Now, periods of drawdown does not define you as a trader. Whether you're a top trader that's going through this slow period or you're a new trader that is seemingly losing money day over day, seeing their P&L continue to decline, that does not define who you are as a trader. Because at the end of the day, everyone goes through it. What defines you as a trader is how you come out of those drawdown periods, the tactics that you use to slow those drawdown periods, and the tactics that you use to build yourself back, build the confidence and motivation to turn your performance around. In today's video, I'm going to share some real-life experiences in the end of April, heading into the new month of May, how I went through a drawdown period to end April, and the tactics that I implemented into May to turn around my performance, get back on track, and now start the first few trading days of May up over $20,000 with a 75% win rate. So if you're currently going through that drawdown period, I hope that the tactics and discipline that we talk about in today's video will help you slow the bleed on your portfolio, balance out those losses, and start to teach you what the right things are to focus on to come back and start to see that positive and that green P&L once again. So guys, we're going to go ahead and pull up the whiteboard and really discuss with you guys drawdown periods, and really talk in depth and try to connect with you on a one-on-one basis about the period of drawdown, about the concept of drawdown. Now, to most people, the question, what is drawdown? It's pretty much just a period of downside on their P&L, right? That's what most people would refer to, a period of drawdown. They're losing money, they're continuing to lose money. Now, what I would consider a period of drawdown, while it is, yes, it is a period of losing money, I think some of the big things to pay attention to here is it is a loss of confidence, right? A loss of an edge, or at least a feeling like you are losing your edge. You are feeling like things are not going in your favor, and you start to get timid. You start to feel scared. You start to question whether you should be entering trades. So you lose your edge, right? Or you have a feeling like you're losing your edge, but that, creates a loss of confidence. So you lose confidence, right? You start to question yourself, right? You question whether you should be entering trades. You lose that confidence. You start to question yourself. And this ultimately creates the word, which is very dangerous in trading, hesitation. Hesitation is one of the most dangerous things in trading. You hesitate to take a setup that you know has worked for you in the past, that you know is something that should work, right? Such as, for me, my break and retest setup, right? The break and retest. This is the setup and the strategy that I trade when I am very confident, when I don't have hesitation, when I am firing on all cylinders. But when I go through a period of drawdown, right, I start to feel like I'm losing my edge. I start to lose confidence. I start to question my ability, and I start to see hesitation in my trading. And that is the biggest problem with drawdown. It's not so much that you're losing money, right? Because everyone is going to go through a period of losing money in their trading, but it is very hard to come out of this drawdown because of these emotional things that go on, right? It is very hard to come back the next day and say, let's take that trade. No hesitation. This is what I need to do, right? This is the hard part. Coming out of the drawdown period without the hesitation, without the loss of confidence. So if you're someone that has a strategy, that has been losing some money, right, and going through a period where you're losing confidence, you're having hesitation, you're being worried and scared to take trades, how do we correctly recover? How do we correctly recover from the drawdown period, right? How do we slow that bleeding to start to even out? And then how do we come back from that, right? So downside drawdown, how do we slow that bleeding? And then how do we come back out of that period? This area right here is so important. The ability to stop the bleeding is immensely important, because what most people will do, or what your body and your human mentality will make you do, is when you're losing that money, you feel like you have to recover quickly, right? You want to recover those losses very quickly. And if you attempt to recover losses quickly and get more aggressive when you're having hesitation, feeling timid, losing confidence, this downside is only going to continue to zero. So we need to do something to slow the bleeding, stop the hemorrhaging. So we need to start slowing that bleeding down, slowing that loss in your portfolio, start to make things more comfortable again, right? And so we need to get to that period of a flat or an even P&L. So let's focus on this area right here. What are the tips and tricks that I want to talk about? Let's put them over here on the whiteboard. What are the tips and tricks that I want to share with you today to slow down your bleeding? The first and most obvious one is going to be to scale down. Scale down your trading, right? Most traders, when they're losing, they're going to increase size to make back their losses quick. Wrong. That's the worst thing you could do. We need to scale down our trading. We need to get back into a very comfortable size where you can allow trades to work out and you can allow your setups to play out without emotion. So let's go through my period that I've currently gone through and use some real life examples of what has happened. Up on the screen, you're going to see my last 3 weeks of April. They were terrible. I lost a lot of money. I gave back a lot of profits that I had in April. What did I do after that period? I lowered my position size to make sure that I head into May with an even head and I start to slow the bleeding down. If I would have continued to trade at the same size with the same aggression, I would have continued most likely to see those losses and losses and losses, which would have started to even put me negative for the month, right? Not something that I wanted to do. Now, I would say that the reason I even got into this situation is because I had a very strong start to April, right? So let's talk about this. These are our tips to slow the bleed over on the right side. But my P&L curve in April looks something like this. It literally went straight up to start April, almost $400,000 in the first week of April. Wild. I got very aggressive at these highs, very aggressive. And I mean oversizing with a lot of confidence, taking shots. Do I think that's a terrible thing? I don't, because I do this a lot in my trading, where if I have that big buffer, I will start to push it and push it and push it to try to exponentially grow my P&L. But I hit a wall, right? I hit a supply. I hit a supply in the market. I hit a supply in my trading. And I started to see this decline start to come back in, right? I was staying aggressive. I was starting to see that decline come in. Now, when I start to see this, my goal is to make sure that this starts to slow down and I can start to curl this back higher. But it is very easy to lose control and see this go to negative, right? And start to go negative on the month. It's very easy to do that as a trader. It is very easy to lose control of your emotions, lose control of yourself, and continue to just push it and push it and push it. But I knew I needed to slow it down. So heading into the end of April, which was around this period, I still end the month very nicely green, right? Still end the month very happy about my overall P&L. But was I happy at the end of the day about how much I gave back? Not really, right? I wasn't in a good mindset. I knew I was a little bit upset about giving back the wins, and I knew that I was feeling some loss of confidence and I needed to do a little bit of a reset, right? So if you're going through that period, we need to reset and we need to slow the bleed. And so what did I do? Like I said, I scaled down. The next thing, when you scale down, you can focus more, right? Focus on entries. Focus more on your entries. Focus more on what the actual trade is rather than the money, right? Because we all get wrapped up when we're having a really killer month, when we're having a fantastic start to a month. We're getting wrapped up in how much money we're up for the month, how happy we are about our performance, right? And so we get a little bit loose on our entries. We start to feel that confidence. Things start to loosen a little bit. It's just natural. But that is what ends up creating that drawdown period or that give back period. So we always want to focus on entries, right? We know that as traders, but it's extremely important to, if you go through that drawdown period, to scale it down and focus very, very important on entries, right? On actually taking only our trading setup. Now, what the scaling down and focusing on entries will do, right? It will naturally decrease emotion, all right? So we're going to naturally decrease emotion in our trading because of this first tip that we're going to implement. Scaling down our position sizing. This month, I'm up $20,000 in about 4 trading days. That was a normal, sort of a low trading day for me just a month ago, right? Taking $100,000, $150,000 position sizes, making 10, 15, 20%, that's making me $20,000 in a single minute, possibly, right? If it's a big move, in a single 5-minute, 10-minute trade, right? So for me to be up $20,000 this month over the last 4 days is a smaller P&L. Is it still a great P&L? Fantastic, right? I'm very happy about it. But I needed to scale down, and I needed to focus on the trades that I was taking and lock back in. Things got loose during that drawdown period. So don't focus on the money, right? Scale down, focus on entries. And number 3 is remove, right? Remove the emotion of money. Remove the thought process. Remove the P&L watch, right? Stop watching your P&L. You're going to scale down. You're going to get back into a comfortable state of your P&L. You're not going to have these huge volatility swings in your P&L because naturally you're scaling down back to a position where you're comfortable. So for me, that was back to like $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 position sizes rather than $100,000. So I sort of cut it in a half, if not almost a fourth, right? So I went basically down 1/2 to 1/4 of my normal position sizes. That's how much I cut it down because I knew I needed to slow things down. So I did that. I got really focused on the entries and positions that I would take, which naturally decreased my emotion in my trades, which allowed me to see them out, right? Didn't get faked out or stopped out too early. I let things play out. And I didn't look at the dollar amounts. I would just take my trades and let the trade play out. Now, before we jump into the charts, go to TradeZella and talk about some trades, I want to talk about some common mistakes that traders make when they are in these drawdown periods. I've done them myself. I've just currently gone through one. I have a lot of experience, and I know the mistakes that I've made in the past. The first one that most traders make is they keep size the same, right? And this is one of the very few this is one of the very few analogies that I like to make that goes with the casino when it comes to trading. When the table is hot on a blackjack table, when someone is counting cards, they increase their bet size when the count is hot, right? Because they know that they have their edge and they're increasing bet size and they're continuing to see if they can pile up their wins and exponentially grow. This is similar to what I do when I feel really in tune. When they know the table is cooling down and they maybe have a spotter that taps them on the back and says, hey man, you got to get off this table. They either get off the table or they lower their size back down to the minimum bet. This is something that I think you should think about when it comes to your trading drawdown periods. A mistake is to keep the size the same. A mistake is to bet the same way you would if the table was hot. And you need to know when your table is no longer hot, when you are losing confidence, losing intuition, and having some of that hesitation. If you feel that way, we need to lower size. We cannot keep size the same. Very important. Number 2 is, and a really important one here, is they change strategies. Or they think that what they're looking for or what they're doing or have been doing to succeed is no longer working. That is not the case, okay? If you have had successful months trading, if you've seen yourself make money trading before with good discipline, good strategy, then it's not time to start changing strategies. It just means that something outside of your strategy, whether it's your emotional control, whether it's your discipline, something yourself, your ability to manage the strategy yourself is starting to fall and starting to deteriorate. It is not the strategy in itself. The strategy is just fine. So for me, looking for a break and retest, right? A break and retest long entry, that's still working. It's just my ability to see it and manage it and control it. So a mistake that traders will make is they'll start to change their strategies. No, we're not doing that. We need to stay disciplined in what we always look for. We need to understand what are the mistakes that we're making. Are we being too lax with our entries? Are we taking entries too far past the retest level? Are we letting stop losses continue lower? Right? Are we not stopping out when it breaks back below our retest level? What are those emotional and psychological mistakes that we're making? It's not the strategy. We are not changing strategies. We need to figure out what it is that's making us lose that money. And the third and final thing, which is a very sad thing, but it is true in trading because I have gone through this period myself. A very long time ago, I've done something called accepting mediocrity. And I don't want to see any of you go through this period. Accepting mediocrity, accepting that you're just not a trader, accepting that it's just not going to work out, right? It's just not working. And I just suck, right? That is the worst thing you can do because at the end of the day, what this creates is the number on your screen, right? Let's say you have $10,000 in your trading account. If you start to fall into this accepting mediocrity phase, this number and this money is nothing to you, right? You will lose that and you won't even care. You will sulk and you will just accept and you'll make yourself feel okay about losing that money. You'll be all right, right? You'll just say, all right, whatever, I suck. I'll just let this go to zero, right? This goes to 6,000, right? You're going to let it go to 4, then it's at 2,000, and then you just say, I'm just going to YOLO the last 2,000 into zero, and that's it. My trading career is over. We cannot fall down this terrible, terrible slope. We need to stop this as soon as we start to feel that drawdown, as soon as we start to feel that period of not being in tune and not feeling confident. We need to stop it in its tracks because it is very easy to accept mediocrity and allow that P&L and allow that account balance to go to zero because you start to lose connection with the money on the screen. It is so important not to fall down that road because that is a road to zero every single time. So guys, up on the screen, you can see that I'm using TradeZella to compare two group sets, two data sets. The left side is my trading for the last few weeks of April, where I lost about $75,000 over about 2 weeks. And the second group is right here on the right side, and that is my first week of May, where I've made about $23,000 to start the month. Now you can see here that the first thing that's very clear is my average daily volume. You can see that this is the volume of option contracts that I would trade on a daily basis. Look at how much that has declined. Just about a fourth of my position sizing from the previous month. So I've greatly decreased the amount of size that I would take down to almost 1/4 of my original size, which has very clearly, for now, I know it's a small data set, but has very clearly increased my win rate from around 66% to around 73%. Now, of course, like I said, this is a smaller data set, obviously versus the trades that I took last month. So we'll see how this ends, in the end of May. But we can see that I actually still did a fantastic job in the month in terms of win rate. Almost 66% win rate is still very high, but I've done really well of being much more accurate and keeping trades manageable. Now, another really concerning thing that you will see here is this right here. You can see ending the month of April, my losses were almost 4 times my wins, which is disgusting, right? You can see $12,000 was my average losing trade. My average winning trade was $3,000. I was down a dark path. I was snowballing, right, to end that month. Very, very clear here when we look at my data. And this is something that I needed to stop, or this was going to continue. So what did I do? You can see I scaled down and look at this number, right? I have now very clearly flipped that statistic where my average losing trade was $1,600 and my average winning trade is $3,500. So I've very clearly flipped that ugly, ugly statistic that I started to see in my trading. Just looking at this alone, which is a beautiful thing that you use in TradeZella, managing your trades and monitoring your performance, you can see how big of a difference the last few weeks of April to the first week of May has become because of some of the tips and tricks we talked about in today's video. Also, looking at my overall performance for the month of May, you can see that I've greatly declined the amount of trades that I've been taking. So 4 trades on Thursday, 3 trades on Friday, 2 trades on Monday, and 3 trades today. Once I get a nice win, I get out. You can see here on Monday, we had 2 trades, still holding some meta, but a great day on Monday, and only 2 trades. Here today, you guys can see some really nice trades, 42% on HIMS, 25% on the Qs. After that, you can see I have not taken another trade today. Back on Friday, you can see that I went ahead and I closed the day up $2,000. Once I got up, once I got green, I left the computer. Same thing here on Thursday, where I took 1 good trade, took a loss as well, the winner being much larger than the loser, right? A good risk reward on those 2 trades, and I walked away. So right now, I'm on a 4-day winning streak, up almost $24,000 with a 72% win rate and a 5.8 profit factor. A much different scenario than if we do this, right? Here's my last few weeks of April. Take a look at this disgusting statistic. $75,000, 0.58 profit factor, still a good trading win percent, but you can see if we look at the Zella score here, the only good thing that was happening was my win percent. My average win to loss on a trade and my profit factor was negative, which really shows you here that a trade win percent does not mean anything. I had a really high and larger than normal win rate, right? But because of the profit factor and the average win to loss trade, I lost $75,000. A very ugly statistic. So guys, that's all that I have for you in today's video. If you enjoyed and learned something from my real life experiences in April as well as into May, some of the tips and tricks that I have implemented into my own personal trading to slow a drawdown period and come out on top, make sure to press that like button down below. Comment down below as well if you're going through this period, if you have any questions, and if you have any tips that you can share with other traders around the world. Also, subscribe to the channel. Help me grow the channel. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to click that before you head out. Press that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.